Welcome back to the Thrive on Plants podcast, where we explore the science, stories, and strategies helping you transform your health with the power of plants. Today's guest is someone who has been inspiring this movement for over a decade, Dr. Ruby Lathon. You may know her from What the Health, her YouTube channel, The Veggie Chest, or her brand new cookbook, Stop Playin, Go Vegan. Dr. Lathon's doctoral and master's degrees are in industrial and systems engineering from the University of Alabama in Huntsville, complemented by a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science from Oakwood University. Her career involved high level research and executive roles, including serving as a senior engineer at Sandia National Laboratories and a research fellow at NASA Marshall Space Flight Center. When Dr. Lathon refers to helping others, quote, re engineer their health and live disease free, she's applying this systematic discipline to human metabolism and lifestyle change. This framework allows her to approach dietary adherence, disease recovery, and lifestyle modifications not as abstract goals, but as quantifiable, repeatable processes subject to scientific improvement. The unique contribution she offers is the ability to diagnose nutritional systems failures, identify the root causes, i.e., suboptimal nutritional inputs, and implement rigorous process controls. And that is her whole food plant based structure, resulting in predictable, optimal outcomes. Today, we're diving into her journey from engineer to holistic health trailblazer, the recipes and philosophies behind her new book, and how she's helping make healthy plant based eating accessible and joyful to everyone. If you are not familiar with Dr. Lathon, I would encourage you to explore her website, which will be linked in the show notes. There you can learn more about her book, her Ruby Red's vegan meal delivery service, which, if you are in the DC area, I would highly encourage you to explore. And you can also become a member of her healing community. With that, please join me in welcoming Dr. Ruby Lathon to Thrive on Plants. Well, Dr. Ruby Lathon, welcome to the Thrive on Plants podcast. I'm so excited that you're here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Dr. Ruby, I did a deep dive into everything about Dr. Ruby Lathon in preparation for our call, and I've had an opportunity to see you live in action at events that I had attended at PCRM. But
Okay.
it would be great because I don't know that the Thrive on Plants community is as familiar with you as I am. If you would share a little bit about your background. You have worked in very high stakes environments, but
Mhm.
when you faced your own health crisis, how did your discipline in terms of systems optimization, root cause analysis, how did you redesign your health and prepare yourself to troubleshoot to coming back to your own state of optimal health?
Right. Well, so a little background. I was engineer, working in defense. So all my degrees are in computer science and systems engineering. Um, and that's when I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer way back in 2007. So at this point, I would doing like a technology transfer from the labs and started an engineering company with some partners from college.
Mhm.
So was still working in defense. And so when I got the the diagnosis, I was completely shocked because I forgot I even did the test a week before or so because I was like, I don't have cancer. I'm just doing what the doctor suggests to
Mm.
have the test." And so I was really stunned because I hadn't given that a possibility. Um, and it was then that I decided that moment. I still remember that moment. I was on travel, so I was in a hotel when I got this call, and and hearing, the options. So I was like, what are the options? Take out the thyroid, and then we put you on a medication that replicates, the thyroid hormone, and that's it, and you're good to go. And so I didn't like the part about being on medication forever, and it just that was more devastating than taking out the thyroid because it meant being on medication, and I was like, "I don't wanna be dependent on a medication. I really just don't want to depend on a pharmaceutical for the rest of my life." So, I asked, "What are the alternatives, besides that?" And said, "There are none." Um, and I was like, "Really? Are you sure about that?" So he's like, "Well, you can take a few months if you want. This is a slow glowing type of cancer. So if you want to take a few months and try something else, you can, and then just come back in 3 months and we'll do the surgery." And so if somebody says try something and come back and do the surgery, they're obviously thinking it's not whatever you're going to do is not.
Right.
So I was okay. So I, uh, I took that, and when I hung up, I was thinking, "I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do the surgery. I'm just not gonna do it." It was just a very, like, strong feeling and gut intuition that there was another way and that I just didn't believe there was no other way to deal with this. And so that's when I decided I was gonna figure it out. I was gonna find another way. If there was another way, I was going to find it. And so that's what started my my research into how can I do this.
Were you 2 questions. Were you healthy otherwise, and was this a papillary thyroid carcinoma, or do you mind sharing what type of thyroid cancer?
Sure, it was papillary carcinoma, and the nodule was like the cancerous nodule was like about 1.4 centimeters.
Mhm, mhm.
So I was healthy otherwise. I didn't have any issues, not on any medications, which was the plan, was to be medication free forever. Yeah, I was in good shape. I was, everything was good. So I was really surprised by it. And then people often ask, well, how did I find it? And in the first place, and that's because my doctor, who was really good, just felt my neck and felt like my thyroid was enlarged. And we had looked at it a few years before and done a ultrasound just out of caution, and nothing looked too suspicious. So she said, let's do another one. So, and compare, then that's when I went to the endocrinologist and did the ultrasound, and there were new nodules and more activity. So that's what caused the biopsy, and that's how I found it.
So, you got off the phone and decided no surgery, but what happened next?
So after some tears, so what happened next is I got home and I started researching, just like researching everything. I mean, and I have to say, there are critical moments in this process, and one was because I was I lived in Albuquerque, my family, a lot of them lived in Alabama, so I was actually in Alabama at the time, but not, in Huntsville. So I went there, I, broke the news, and everybody started crying like I was dying, and I was like, "Look, I'm not gonna die. I'm not gonna die. I made a decision right there. I'm not dying. This is not that type of cancer anyway." I mean, any cancer is dangerous, of course, but I was like, it's not as aggressive as some, so I have some time, but I'm also deciding I'm not dying. Okay, so we can stop with tears, and I think that's the last time I cried about it because I was staying with a friend. One of my childhood friends was in Montgomery, and that's where I got the news, and so she was the first to tell. And so I was like, no more tears. This is better. Tearful weekend. We're done. I'm living, and I'm gonna figure out a way to deal with this.
Absolutely.
And so, I started researching. So when I got home, I just started, like, researching. I just, like, stopped everything and was online and made a lot of appointments with second opinions and other doctors, naturopathic, doctors, and just started digging into how we're gonna figure this out. So that was the step 1, was to get some information, and then I found a lifestyle treatment facility that uses teaches you how to use food as medicine, teaches you natural methods. I'd heard about it through through church acquaintances, and so I decided, they had an opening in 3 weeks from the day of that diagnosis, so I went there to really get a jump start because it already started getting overwhelming of what to do.
The overwhelm, yes, because I I can imagine, and if you're overwhelmed, I can imagine someone who doesn't have your education and background trying to sort through, "What do I do next?"
Right, right. It is very overwhelming and it can be scary. Um, so I did have a friend who was studying at the time to become a naturopathic doctor, and so I was her first practice patient. So, I mean, she was very knowledgeable even then. And so it kind of helped me feel like, okay, I have someone who knows more about this than I do, than healing naturally. In addition to, like I said, many other types of doctors I met with to gain information. So, yeah, when I went to the facility, I came back. Um, it's called Uchi Pines because people always ask. And there are several facilities like that that teach you natural methods or, where you can come and stay and have good plant-based foods and use holistic methodologies to help people heal. And so when I came back, I felt like, wow, my system was cleaned out. I ate like super clean food, had a really good idea of how to heal, how to use my immune system, which does everything, how to empower your immune system to do what it needs to do, basically getting out of the way of it by, removing the junk and toxins and all the things. So, stopped like using the microwave and stopped eating all the processed foods and stopped eating dairy and things like that and um any animal products. So just very clean eating from there. So that was step 1.
Okay. So prior to that, you had not been plant-based. You really used this you kickstarted your plant-based journey right then.
Yeah, I was mostly vegetarian then with
Okay.
occasional fish here and there. Um, so I would say it was like a high dairy, high egg diet,
Mhm.
because I just kind of grew up more vegetarian and kind of stuck with that. So the big thing for me was getting rid of all the dairy products, and egg products and processed foods and
So
sugar.
m sugar, yes,
Mhm,
because that is pro-inflammatory.
mhm,
So
mhm.
after I'm assuming you came back with a clear set of, "Here's what I wanna do, and here's how I know if it's effective." What how did you go from this initial phase of, "Let me really reset my body." How did you move forward knowing with all the inputs what you needed to do and determining if it was actually effective in either remission or preventing you ensuring that this cancer did not progress?
Right. So one of the ways was through the ultrasounds because you don't want to repeat biopsies over and over, but you can repeat ultrasound. So that was how I decided I was going to monitor to make sure it
Mhm.
wasn't growing. And then there are other blood tests that I found out about while I was at the center and researching that can also be somewhat of a marker um, to monitor inflammation and things like that. So I'm like, if this is going down, then I know I'm going in the right direction. If it's going up, then there's probably, inflammation and I'm in the wrong, I'm going the wrong direction. So that was the plan was to monitor both through those two methods to see if it was working. So I did go back in 3 months. I thought it should have been gone because I was like, I'm eating perfectly and resting, doing all the things, and it was still there. And so I'm pretty sure that he expected me to say, "Okay, so let's go ahead and do the surgery." And I was like, "I'm gonna take a little more time because
Mhm.
nothing has changed." So I'm essentially based on the results in the same spot. So that means
Mhm.
I still have time to nothing has grown, nothing has shrunk, everything's the same. I'm gonna take more time. Um, they didn't like that. So I was like, okay, so he took that time to discourage me greatly and all the, and it's acts as if I'm being irresponsible. I'm like, no one cares more about my life right now than me. So, but it's my decision to make. So I decided to, keep going. I was like, I guess there's more to do, and so I would say the first half of the recovery, because I gave myself a year.
Mhm.
After that 3 months, I was like, "Okay, maybe it's not gonna happen so fast. Maybe I need to relax and let the process happen," because usually by the time we see or feel the effects of cancer, it's been there for a while, probably a year or 2 or 3, and so maybe it's not gonna go away just like that. So I said, "I'm gonna give myself a year, and then if it doesn't work, I will reconsider the surgery." And I can go into it with still focusing on how I got it, was one of the main things. I was really focusing on how did I get this? And I went to a center that allows you to test for radiation, because one of the factors for thyroid cancer is exposure,
Mhm.
excessive exposure to radiation, and that can be through like dental X-rays or just being exposed some other way. So I had that test done, and it did show some exposure, and so at that point I felt like, well, this is probably why I have it, because I can't think of any other reason. Just doesn't make sense. And so I kind of let go the search of trying to figure out why I had it. Because my thought process, well, if I don't know why I got it, it could come back. And so I need to figure out, so I can stop doing whatever it is that got me here. And so I then looked at detoxing. How do you detox from radiation exposure, and how do I really protect the thyroid? So I started doing those things like bentonite clay baths and things like that that can help detox. But I felt like that was a turning point, because now I was no longer focused on how did I get this, but now releasing it. And I feel like energetically, those are two different energies, right? Of one is like, why did I get this? And you're focusing on the illness. Whereas when you've released it, now I'm focusing on, okay, now we can just focus on healing. We're letting it go. It doesn't matter at this point. We're just going to heal, and we're going to be okay going forward. I don't think there's any toxins in the house or anything like that. Cause I'm like, we got to, do I need to move? So many things are coming in your brain that it's hard to focus just on the peacefulness of healing when you're trying to figure out why you got here in the first place. So, kind of figuring out, it was probably some exposure, through work or otherwise, that now I can just let it go. And um and so at that point I decided to take a vacation, because I was really just studying every day, like for an exam, but I was a research project. So I was studying every day, trying to find, tweaking my plan. Every time I found a new supplement, I'm like, should I add this? Order
Sounds
this.
stressful.
It's very stressful.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I need a break. I've studied enough. It's been almost 6 months of study. I'm so well versed in this. I think I can chill out. So it was when I went on a vacation that friends let me use their condo in Mexico. Nobody was there. I guess it's off season, so it was great. Nobody's there. It's quiet. And so I'm on the beach by myself, and that's when I was like, got the epiphany or the download or the inspiration or whatever you want to call it, while I'm sitting there on the beach just admiring how beautiful the beach is and the sand, and nobody is around other than people waiting to bring me whatever I want, which was guacamole and water and chips. So I'm sitting there just enjoying this moment, and then I get the epiphany, like, oh, okay, you're doing a little too much. You're
Mhm.
overwhelming yourself. You
Mhm.
don't need to do everything. You need to look at it in a more systematic way. So that's when I was like, okay, what are those systems? So it was things that, fight cancer. I'm taking like 10 things in here. We don't need all 10. Okay. And then I'm taking things to reduce inflammation because of the
Mhm.
thyroid enlargement and things like that. We don't need, 10 of those either, or five of
Mhm.
those. Let's take the most potent ones. And then let's look at what do we need to just boost the immune system, or make sure you have all the nutrients you need so that your immune system is working optimally. So I was like, okay, those are three categories. Let's take the top ones in each of those categories, let the others go because it's too much and super expensive. But it was like, you don't need it all. There are redundancies here. So I whittled it down to a couple in each category. And I was like, this is the plan. This makes sense to me. I've been studying for a year. I know the best things, you know. So I came up with the plan. So came back. I was like, this is doable. I don't have to keep a calendar of schedule anymore because it's manageable. So, you know, one of the things I'd start the day with wheatgrass. Uh, and I chased that with some carrot juice and ginger. Because I don't like wheatgrass, but it also just kind of made me nauseous. But I was like, but this, according to the research, is like the best thing, and it's most manageable. I don't have to juice like pounds and pounds of vegetables and fruit because 2 ounces of wheatgrass is equivalent to like 5 pounds of vegetables. So I was like, this is doable. So every week to 10 days, I just buy a pallet of wheatgrass, keep it in the fridge, you cut it off, you juice it, you're done. Juice a carrot and some ginger. That's manageable. So that's how I started the day. And then the next step was garlic, getting garlic in, 8 cloves of garlic, whether I'm gonna eat some of that raw, some of that steamed because it's a lot of garlic. So, so then I would do that on some toast with like flaxseed oil because I need the flaxseed oil. So I was like, how can I combine it to make it taste good? Because I'm not just gonna choke down cloves of garlic like my dad used to do. Whenever he would get close to getting a cold, he would just chew on garlic.
Oh my gosh, that's
And
an old reckon yeah, and it
yeah,
worked.
and it worked. He didn't. I was like, yeah, because it keeps everybody away from you for starters. But but it did kill, you know, so he never really got, like, bad colds or flus because he would feel it, eat some garlic, and go to bed, you know? So, I was like, "I'm not that strong, I'm not chewing on cloves of garlic." So, I had to smash it up, put it in pâtés, like an almond pâté or just, like I said, on toast, you know, like Ezekiel bread with the flax oil and a little sea salt. So, it actually tasted good, so I wasn't, like, you know, choking it
Choking
down.
it down, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and then follow up with herbal teas, Essiac tea and Partiarco tea, so there was a routine, so that was the morning, it was like, "That's easy, I can do," and then the certain supplements and things like that. So, I had a routine that I could do, and I was like, "I can do this, and I'm gonna go back to the doctor," because the second time I went back to the doctor, and when things were still there, that's when it was just so discouraging. It was just like, you know, so I was like almost leaving in tears. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna find a new doctor. I don't have to go through this. I don't have to be berated because of my decisions. So I found a new endocrinologist who would just monitor without the heavy opinionated discouragement. Um and I said, okay, you know, this is the understanding. This is what I'm doing. I just need you to monitor. He's like, okay. So and then I said, I'm gonna go back when I feel healed, when I feel ready, and you know, not feel the pressure of going on this schedule. And that really helped kind of taking charge of the situation.
So you did quite a few things. You simplified, and it sounds just like the engineer in you. You simplified your regimen, which
Mhm,
probably helped lower your stress too, because if I feel like people seem to think they have to add more as
mhm,
opposed to what I hear the approach you took is how do I optimize what I know are foundational for helping me heal? And then double
right.
down on that and keep going.
Exactly, exactly. That's it did take a lot of pressure off because just understanding what we're trying to do means every time I hear of a new supplement doesn't mean I have to take that
Yeah.
because I'm already doing that with this supplement. I'm already doing that with this one so I can relax and trust. Now I was in trust the process mode, whereas I'd
Mhm.
say the first half was figuring out the process, you know, like what should I be doing versus now I have a plan that I believe in, trust this process, relax, take a break, you know, change the energy. And that's when I then had the time to focus on other things. So I was like, okay, now we have the nutrition part down. What else do I need to learn from this? Because I feel like I didn't get the immediate healing because there was more to the story. There's more that I needed to do. And that was kind of the way I kind of took charge of I'm going to go to the doctor when I want. I kind of took charge of my life in that way because part of me was just going along with expectations of what I should do in life versus what I really want to do. So I said, I'm going to stop doing anything I don't want to do. And, so I was the yes person, you catch me on the right day. I'm going to do whatever within reason. But it's like, if I can do it, I'm going to do it, which often led to me doing things I didn't feel like doing. I don't
Mhm.
want to spend my Friday off doing that or by Sunday, but I've agreed to it, even though it's a good thing. Now I've agreed to it. And I'm like waking up dreading, why did I say yes to this? Why did I say yes to that? And I'm like, I'm not going to be the yes person anymore. I am going to say no. So I quit all the organizations I was in. I'm taking a break. I'm not doing anything else because, again, as a single person, people think you just have an infinite amount of time to do whatever.
I
And I
agree.
kind of bought into that. And I was like, I'm not doing anything else I don't want to do. And that included the job because I didn't really like it anymore at this point. I didn't like working in defense. I was like, I'm not doing that. I quit that too.
Mhm.
And so I was like, I'm just gonna figure out what brings me happiness and roll with that. Do what people say, find what you would do for free. I was like, I guess we're on this journey. So um, so yeah, I just started, I found some volunteer organizations that I wanted to work with that felt good and felt fun. And that's what I did. So, it was that one of the things joined was a treatment facility called Endorphin Power Company, and it was teaching people who were recovering from alcohol or drug abuse how
Mhm.
to use fitness to get that same endorphin rush that drugs and alcohol brings. So, because you have to replace that with something. And so I was like, I love this idea. I love the guy who's doing it, very innovative. The folks there were all just full of life and happy, and it felt fun and good and a good cause. And so we were renovating rooms for the where people were going to stay, and it was a lot of fun. And it was a new group of people that kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone to do things like climb rock climbing and things like that. So I was like, this is what I want to do. This is the life I'm supposed to be leading, not just what I think I'm supposed to do, and release the pressure of, oh, I'm supposed to be getting married now, and I actually don't know if I really want to. So it was everything just got like we get to flip the table and start over. And if I don't want to do engineering, it's okay, even though I have 3 degrees. It it is okay to do something different. And that gave me that permission to do something different. So um and then I started meditating. I was reading about the power of meditation and bringing your blood pressure down. And so I had this chi machine that oxygenates your blood, which anytime you exercise or move, you're oxygenating your blood. But the chi machine does it without introducing free radicals. And you lay down for 20 minutes. There's really nothing else you can do. So I started meditating during that time. And then I started reading books like Love and Medicine and Miracles and then there was another spontaneous healing about visualizing how to visualize your healing. So I was like, well, I'm laying here 20 minutes anyway. I'm going to pray, meditate, and then visualize my healing. And that I would do that every day. And that's when I felt like now I supercharged the healing because my body has what it needs. Now my mind has what it needs to do this. It gets rid of fear, it gets rid of the trepidation about this whole process. And I was like, okay, this is the winning combination. I was like, there's no way I'm not going to heal. I just felt it in my soul. And so I stopped saying I had cancer. I had to change the way I talked about things because I had changed. And so that was another turning point in the story.
And those are amazing observations because you set boundaries, which a lot of us struggle with, to be honest.
Mhm,
And then you focused on, I mean, I know you have a science background, engineering background, but when you
mhm,
incorporated the meditation, the all of the different holistic therapies,
mhm,
but that really are actually helpful. They are adjuncts to traditional therapy. Um, But I think part of it was also that you let go of the mantle of, "I have cancer," versus, "I am healed." or I am healing.
Mhm.
There was you almost let go of more than you took on. And it sounds like that probably I'm assuming the next thing you noticed was that things started to change with regard to your thyroid.
Right, exactly. Exactly, and I would have to say as an engineer, it took me a minute to get to the meditation and the
Mhm.
visualization part because 'cause I'm like, "How does that?"
I
Nutrition
know.
makes I was like, "The food makes sense, the supplements make sense, resting makes sense, nature makes sense, okay, all that make I was like, "This is a little too woo-woo for me," but the more I read and the more I understood the connection between how emotions can change your body's
Mhm.
chemistry, that happy emotions are going to make you more alkaline, whereas negative emotions are going to make you more acidic, and cancer tends to grow in acidic environments. And I was like, now this does make sense. Then I'm like thinking about, happier people sometimes tend to be healthier. It's like, so I'm like, this does make sense to me. But it was the second half. I had to go through all the other stuff and overdo it on the supplements
Yeah.
and let that not work for me to get to the mental piece of it. And that to me was the most important part of it. Because when I was thinking about, well, what am I doing? How did I get here? I never thought about emotionally, how did I get here?
Yeah.
And that's a big part of it. Because in Ayurvedic medicine and other philosophies, where you get sick indicates where you might need to focus on for
Mhm.
the healing. The enlarged thyroid, and that's where my friend Phyllis Hubbard, who still does amazing work, Dr. Hubbard now, was saying, so what do you think that represents if your thyroid is enlarged and it's wrapped around your vocal cord? I was like, oh, I need to learn how to speak up. I have been choking down a lot of things and not saying, not sticking up for myself, being the peacemaker at my own expense. And that's not true peace. That's peace for everybody else except me. And it's not fair to me to just take on the dissatisfaction and everybody else is happy.
Mhm.
True peace involves me being at peace. So I was like, okay, I need to learn how to speak up for myself. And that's where the I'm saying no to everything came from. Cause I was like, okay, I was exercise this and it's like the cancer freed me
That's a huge.
because it gave me the confidence or the impetus to stand up and speak out. I was like, okay. And I did look at patterns of, being the super quiet person, being, kind of muted tones and always slipping into the back of the room quiet, you
Mhm.
know, seen but not heard kind of thing.
Mhm.
And I was like, yeah, we can't do that anymore. I have something to say, and it's okay. And who cares if people are mad? I don't care because if I'm upset, then nobody else gets peace either. So,
Right.
so we have to come to a solution that works for us all. And so that was the change. It was like, okay, I'm now a different person. Um, and then my body did respond. My thyroid shrunk, so I saw that happen after I started the meditation and the visualization. And I was like, the doctor did not tell me this. I was reviewing my charts and was comparing and saw this like, oh, this is half the size it used to be. And then when I went back, I
Interesting.
asked him about it. He was like, oh, yeah, I've never seen that before, but yeah, it's normal size now. And I'm like, well, that would have been nice. Why are we measuring if we're not going to look at the stuff? So I was like, you have to be less. The next lesson was be your own doctor because
Mhm.
doctors are busy. They don't often have the time to go through with a fine tooth comb to say, there, not every doctor was like Dr. Gressis, Nancy Gressis back in Albuquerque, who had the time to compare. I mean, she was like one of the best doctors because she took her time with people and that
Mhm.
often meant waiting longer, but I was like, but it was worth it because she was, kind of booking the system and like, I'm going to give good care even if it takes a little more time. But not every doctor has that or has the time to do that. And so I was like, you have to look at your own charts. You have to be your own doctor. And take that information and then make an informed decision about what you're going to do and make sure you're not missing things. So that was the other lesson. So I said, all right, now I'm going to go back when I'm feel healed. And it was about that year marker. And it was now it's time to look at things again. So
And what happened?
yeah. So I had the ultrasound done and everything was still the same in terms of the tumor size, and I was like, there's no way the cancer is still in my body." I stopped even saying I had it because I was doing these mini healing sessions every day, and I was like, "I know that it's gone." I was like, "So let's do a biopsy," because I was like, "I am the healthiest I've ever been. I've eaten 1 bite of a cake for an entire year, and just 1 bite of a small piece of cake, that was it. I was like, "So I've had no sugar. I've had no junk. This is the cleanest I can be." So I was like, "There's no way it's not there." So I said, "Let's, do the ultrasound." So we came back, did the ultrasound, not the ultrasound, I mean the biopsy.
See?
So we biopsied all the little nodules that were there and came back a week later. Everything came back clear. There was no cancer anywhere.
And what did your doctor say then?
Not what you would think. He's like, "You should still have the surgery just in case it comes back."
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and I was like, no, thank you." So, I was like, "No, I'm not gonna do that,
Mhm,
especially now that it's clear. Why would I do that?
mhm.
It's, like, literally gone."
Just
So
in case.
right. I was like, "Nope, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for your service. I'm out of here, hopefully never to be seen in this office again."
Ruby's running out the door.
Literally, I was like, "Give me the paperwork. I'm out of here." So, this was Wednesday, so Saturday night, I had a big wellness party,
Uh-huh.
um, because I had envisioned it, and I was overjoyed and so happy, so happy, and I just felt like this is definitely a new phase of my life, and I don't wanna go back to engineering. I don't know what I'm gonna do for here from here, but I'm gonna do something that feels good in my soul,
Mhm.
um, and work from there, and so that was kind of the turning point to a new career.
That and can you how what was the duration of so that was about a year's worth of
Yeah,
you
so by
doing the
now it
research?
was, like, March, I think, when I got the results back from the biopsy.
Mhm.
So I think like we had the ultrasound in like December and saying everything was there. So by the time we got the biopsy scheduled, it was like March. So it'd been like, 14 months from the original diagnosis.
So how did you well, I'd love to know before I ask you, wanna
Mhm.
I wanna know how you found your why, and what propelled you into this next phase of your career. But as you were going through this 14 months, what was your family saying to you?
They were really supportive.
Yeah.
They were probably the only people who weren't saying you should get the surgery. So because I was friends with a lot of physicians. And, all of them said, "It's just a easy little surgery. It's a bread and butter type surgery. It's, minor, low risk." I was like, "I get that." And it's not that I'm afraid of surgery. It's the aftermath. So I was like, "So I don't care how big the pill is or how little it is. It's the being on it forever is the problem." So yeah, no, they were very supportive. They understood what I was doing and they were praying and you know, uh they did not say you should have the surgery. So they were just supporting what I was doing because I always done what I'm gonna do anyways.
They knew better.
Yeah, it's like what's the point? What's the point, really?
And
Yeah.
how did that next phase of your career I won't say your career because really this to me, it's been your life. What how did you find your next?
Right. So I started trying to figure out, what is the next step. And during this process, I had been sharing, the journey with people because I was like, if you know anything about healing cancer, send it my way.
Mhm.
So everyone knew that all my network of people knew that I was doing this. So a lot of people wanted to know afterwards, like in detail, what did you
What did
can
you do?
yeah, how did you do this? Unlike some of the physicians who did not even ask what I did. But so that was like a thing on the side that was kind of in the atmosphere. And then I went to a uh career center where they help you transition to new
Mhm,
careers, and they, you know, when you're changing like a major career things like headhunter companies, that kind of thing. So I was like, okay, I want to make this transition, but I have no idea how I'm going to do
mhm,
that. um as I considered, you know, engineering and applying it to like hospital systems, because I was like optimizing supply chains for like weapon systems, right? I was
mhm,
like, well, you can optimize supply chains for something better, you know. But it still didn't like really float my boat. So um the career specialist I was working with was like, you know, just put in things that you want to be doing. And one of the things that came up was Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. They were looking for a nutrition policy director or manager. And I was reading the job description and I was like, wait a minute, this is a job I would do for free. That's one of the things, you know, they were like, I was like, I don't believe that it really exists. I was like, but if I could, this would be the job. I was
mhm,
like, this has my name written all over it. You know, someone basically advocating for preventative medicine through plant-based nutrition. And I was like, hello, I just did that, you know, or I did more than that. Not only did, you know, I probably prevented a lot of other things, but I reversed it. So I actually put this to the test. So I was like, so this is really, this is for me, you know. So I was like, how can I, you know, apply for this? I have no obviously experience or degrees in nutrition
mhm.
policy, but I started looking at the description and we're looking at things like lobbying. And I was like, well, thanks to all the volunteering I've been doing, I have done lobbying, I've done state lobbying, I've done this, I've done that. I pretty much had experience in all of the things they were looking for, just in a different realm, right?
Mm,
So
yeah.
I wrote the best cover letter ever explaining this, explaining that I may not have a degree in nutrition, but I do have a degree in nutrition at this point. So, and just applied and I didn't let go. I started looking down the roster of people who worked there, the board of directors, because I was like, this is my job. This, and I felt like, you know, this I just felt like it was like,
You were destined.
"Ah, this
Yeah.
is for you." That's how I felt about the job. So I couldn't even look at other every time I would search other jobs, I was like, "Okay, can't put everything in this one job. You gotta look at some other things." And every time I would look at anything else, I just felt bad. I was like, I can't do it," you know? I maybe applied to one other place that I probably, you know, was in my field of engineering that I was like, I'm pretty sure I can get an engineering job. I mean, I've
Mhm.
worked at NASA, I've worked at national laboratories, I've worked at, I can get an engineering job. I didn't want that though. So I was like, this is the job. So I just kept, you know, badgering, I would say, people who work there, finding, I was like, I gotta know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who works here. So I was like, I sent, you know, so I applied the regular way. And then
Uh-huh.
I sent emails to all the board of directors and then I sent a video resume to the president of,
Oh my
of
gosh, you did a
TCR.
campaign.
Yes. I was on a campaign. And so he got the video resume and then I got, you know, an interview and I was like, "Oh, it's done, you know, sealed and delivered. If I have an interview, I have the job." So, I had a great interview. Came back home and started making plans to move to DC because I was like, "This job is mine." It was great. I already felt like I
Mhm.
belonged there. Um, and so it was a few weeks I hadn't heard anything, and then but I had already scheduled movers, and you know they're
You were manifesting. Yeah.
I am, I'm like, I'm going. I had, you know, reserved my apartment. I had, you know, movers are coming. I was ready. I was just waiting for them to say yes. And so it's Tuesday, movers are coming on Friday. I still have not gotten confirmation
Oh
that
gosh.
this job is mine. And then I got the call, and I was like, I literally dropped to my knees, like, "Oh, thank you, God." yes, this was getting a little bit scary right about it now. So yeah, so now I could finish the packing in peace, like, yes.
Your stress level just went down, yeah.
Right. I started working with a holistic physician, and it just everything grew organically from there.
That is an amazing story.
Yeah, it was a wild time, but really good.
And at PCRM, you did a lot for, just looking through some of the work you did, I think what stood out for me was some of the advocacy you did for school nutrition. But
Mhm.
you, what was the scope of your work at PCRM? And what did that lead into for all of the other things that people know Dr. Ruby for subsequent to that?
Right. Um, so yeah, a lot of my focus was on the National School Lunch Program and helping schools to introduce plant-based options on their menu, helping them learn how to market that to the parents. And the students were easy. It's the parents. That's why no meat. Ooh, it's like you would think you're like hurting the kids by saying meatless Monday. It's like the re-education that has to occur in this society is enormous because so many people are ingrained to think that if you leave out meat or dairy that you're going to be malnourished, and it is so the opposite. Kids don't care if it tastes good, they're going to eat it. Not only that, kids are not married to meat the way adults are.
Mhm,
Um, and so letting it go is not a big deal, especially when they understand the cruelty that's associated with, growing it and processing it.
mhm.
So they're the easy part. We worked with in DC some, I think, first grade classes, and we would go every couple of weeks and introduce them to new things. And by the third or fourth time we went there, the teacher was saying, the parents are saying the kids are coming home asking for apples, asking for fruit, asking for
Aw,
healthy food because
that's
we had
amazing.
taught them what healthy food is and that it's going to make them stronger and smarter. And they actually want that. So we got a lot of that done. And then the other part was lobbying Congress to help mandate some of this or make it easier for schools to have access to plant-based options. So, and to be able to replace, milk with soy milk, which
Mhm,
has a similar amount of protein and things like that. So, I was really kind of trying to put the laws in motion that will allow the swaps to happen
mhm.
easier so that they're still meeting regulations, but we can easily swap, a veggie burger for meat or something like that, and to make it more accessible. So that was another part of the work was lobbying Congress to introduce the bills for healthier school lunches, which should be an easy sell.
How did how did that not raise your stress level?
Yeah, it was parts were frustrating,
Uh-huh.
but working with a lot of schools individually and other organizations was encouraging because it really wasn't the people on the ground. A lot of times their hands are tied because the where they're getting their food from, some of the Cisco's and other places didn't have it, or they had to request it, and so we were teaching them how to request these things and that they actually can have them available. So it was like kind of trying to fix the whole supply chain so that a school lunch, manager can actually order what they want to
Mhm,
order and that
mhm,
it's accessible through the avenues that they already do. And then showing them we don't have to use a processed veggie burger. You can use chickpeas or lentils to make your own thing, and how do we
yes.
introduce that, those kind of things. So that was encouraging working with individuals that actually cared about kids and nutrition, being willing to introduce options that balanced the discouragement from lobbying Congress, which was sometimes met with, well, I'm from a cheese state, so I can't sign on to this, or, it's just like, so that's very frustrating to see how our government undermines our health in many ways. Um, so that was a lot of undertaking. I learned a lot. I've read all, Dr. Barnard's books, to be well versed working there. So just that alone takes your knowledge level up. twofold.
Up
So
to here.
yeah, yeah.
And did the work that you did with the school lunch program, is that how you became involved in What the Health and They're Trying to Kill Us? Because, I mean, I agree with you. The fact that we can't move things that are fundamentally in the benefit of our health through our legislative system, you are a better person than I am for not having pulled your hair out because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't even imagine the frustration at
It's
trying to
very
get something through.
frustrating and disheartening, and it's like, this is insane, the way that our government work it's completely broken, and it needs a overhaul to work for the people. So that is very maddening. So we have little wins along the way, so you just have to take those.
Uh-huh.
The awareness to the community and other things just helped, make it manageable, to try to even just getting a bill introduced was a win because it was like, that was a lot just
Yeah.
to get there. So getting it passed didn't happen, but we introduced it more than once, but it was awareness of it. And it's like, but personally, I'm tired of the little baby steps that we have to claw for just to get basic nutrition. It's time to flip the table, really, on the way that our government works because it is not working for us. It is working for corporations, it is working for people with money, it's even working for other nations, but not us. And so that's part of that, I think, is what the health talks about,
Mhm.
how basic health information is not shared with the general public because it's to the benefit of food corporations and the medical industry to keep us ignorant about what healthy food really is. Because if we ate well, if everybody ate their 5, 6 servings of veggies a day and cruciferous vegetables and didn't eat super highly processed food and 10 tablespoons of sugar a day, we wouldn't need these 10 medications people are on. We wouldn't need 3 or 4 blood pressure medications. We wouldn't be the most obese country in the world. We wouldn't be this sick. And so, without that sickness, some people are going to lose money. And so, that is what is going on in our society. And that's, what was highlighted in What the Health. So, and that's part of why I did not want to be a part of that system of relying on pharmaceuticals. I was like, I don't want any parts of the pharmaceutical industry because what got triggered in me when I got the diagnosis that first night was the way he had planned out my life for the next few months. You're going to do this. Didn't ask me. He was like,
Mhm.
so the next step is, and I'm like, it's great that somebody knows what to do, but I need to consent to this process and I am not consenting, and I don't want to be a cog in this wheel. It was such a mechanized wheel that he laid out for me that I was like, wait a minute. It's like this was pre-planned for me. Oh, you check the cancer box, boom. There's, a
That's how it
lifetime
happens.
of a cash cow right now. And that's what hit my spirit right then. I was like, no, I'm not coming into your trap. I am not coming into that trap. I refuse. And so, because it just felt like a system, it was so I was like, I don't want to be a part of that. I'm not your typical cancer patient where you're going to make money on the front end with the surgery and then make money off of me for the rest of my life
Mhm.
because of this medication. And then I got to come in and adjust it every year or two because it's your body needs that. I'm like, I'm not doing any of that because I don't want to be a part of your system. And that's what Americans, especially, need to recognize that we are trapped in low information, false information to keep you trapped in a system that makes other people very wealthy and keeps you sick and poor.
Wow, you just said it all. Yes. So the incentives are completely misaligned for us to prevent disease. We be
Exactly.
and that's the bottom line. Um, how do you so not you saw the message, you were able to articulate some of that in What the Health, similar conversations in They're Trying to Kill Us, which I bet a lot of people either watching or listening have not seen. But
Mhm.
what so 2 things. 1, I'm assuming throughout this time, you're still continuing to monitor your own health, and that
Mhm.
you are seeing what you are doing is working, that you didn't become a cog in the system, and but no one ever even offered you 2 things that you said that were very triggering for me. No one offered you the option to, "What are my alternatives?" And 2, it doesn't sound like your clinical team actually said, "What did you do to do this?" So that I can share this with other people.
Great. No one definitely asked that. No one did not want to know. I'm like, just being a curious person,
Yes.
I would wanna know. Even if I was never
Learning.
gonna share it with another patient, I would be like, "What did you do?" You know? Like, let me know just because this hasn't happened before, you know? So yeah, there was no curiosity about what I did. There was only discouragement from the traditional medicine doctors. I got lots of encouragement from naturopathics, chiropractors,
Mhm.
other health, you know, non-traditional health practitioners. I did, I did blood analysis. I did this lot, there's live blood analysis. There's so many things. I covered the bases
Mhm.
with everything. And so yeah, I got pure discouragement and but so I had it was like I was in a fight with the medical system, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it got to the point where the first doctor sent a letter to my primary care physician saying, "She's not doing the protocol, you need to talk to her." I was like,
Yikes.
what is she, my mother? I mean, she's gonna make me do it. I'm not doing it. It was just weird how the pressure was so strong to do that. I was like,
But that's completely against the model of shared decision making. I mean, it would be different if you hadn't done the homework, if you hadn't studied for 6 months
"Mhm."
and weren't aware that you were making an informed decision.
Very
So
much informed, yes. Yeah, so, yeah, that was an interesting experience, just understanding, wow, this is when you go against the grain of what the prescribed, you know, protocol is, you're gonna get pushback.
Mhm.
You're gonna get pushback, and it's even worse if you have a child that you're trying to do this for. I've seen, parents, their kids being taken because they didn't wanna do a protocol or something like that, which I understand we have to walk a fine line with that
Yeah.
because it needs to be based in science, you're dealing with somebody else's life and that kinda thing, but it gets to extremes. It gets to very, very big extremes.
And when did so as your was it during your time at PCRM or subsequent to that, that your YouTube channel and Ruby Reds became a part of your next phase of your journey?
Yeah, yeah, so it did. So while I was at PCRM, I was, you know, joined a church and I was their like health leader and, giving talks and things like that. And then connected with other holistic practitioners. And then they started referring people to me. And I was like, well, okay, I need to get some formal degrees or something here, certification. So that's what led me to do that. And then I felt more comfortable, seeing people and make sure I'm covering all the bases. And so then from there, it just grew organically, more people. So I started having clientele and just more invitations to speak. And then from having clients, many wanted to know, well, how do you make the food?
Mhm,
You're giving me
mhm.
this menu list, this is new stuff. I don't know what, miso is, or I don't know what this is. So decided to make the cooking videos for YouTube. And so that's how that came about. I was like, okay, now here are the recipes and here's me actually making it. So now you have a step-by-step guide. So that's what kicked that off, was really kind of listening to people saying they needed more help than just getting a menu and a protocol. So that started there. Um, and then some of my clients later, a few years later, were like, "Well, can you just cook the food?" And I'm like, "Okay, that's a
Sure.
lot of work." It was like, I don't know, but they were kind of ill, and so I was like, for two of them, I was like, "Okay, I'll do it." And then it became three, and then I was like, "Okay," so it's like we decided to go ahead and kick it off then because people were weren't eating out as much. I was like, well, this is a good time to have some contactless delivery and do that. So that's how Ruby Red's meal delivery service came about, and which is in the DC area. Basically using the type of recipes that I recommend to people as part of their healing journey. So now you have the video, and then if you don't want to cook now, you can just order the food. And so it's available to more than just those, clients that I had, but to anyone in the area who can take advantage of that.
And I mean, undertaking, the YouTube videos, one thing, the meal delivery service, and then on top of that, you decide to write a book. Um, aren't
Right.
you supposed to be lowering your stress level, not raising it?
Well, so many people asked me for recipes. I was like, I do need a cookbook. I was like, okay. So it was actually a relief to get it done because it should have been done a long time ago. So I was like, I need to have this book out there. Yeah, Stop Playing, Go Vegan. It had been in the works years before I actually published it, and just kind of got sidetracked with a lot of other things. So those tried and true recipes that I've been using for a long time. Um, and so yeah, I was coming up with the name for it, working with a friend of mine. We were discussing um, just the idea of what it was. And so, I was like, people need to stop playing and just, go vegan like that. There's the name. Stop playing around because everybody knows, almost everybody knows fruits and veggies are healthy, high fat, fast food, and things are not. So let's stop playing with our health and get serious and go ahead and make the leap. Go ahead and make the leap, especially if you're dealing with diabetes or pre-diabetes or kidney disease or heart disease or, just hypertension, all of these things that are killing us slowly. Moving to a plant-based diet has shown to reduce or reverse those conditions. So it's like, why are we playing here? To hold on to our love for steak or, I'm like, come on, let it go and live. Stop playing with your health.
Stop pl and I mean, I took it as both an individual mandate that you'd stop playing, but then I don't know if you were also talking to society in general or um, to our government, just stop playing. We all need to stop playing and understand that what we put in our body can help us or hurt us.
Right.
And very simple dichotomy there. So, how has your book been received in the different communities that you work with? And have you actually had an opportunity maybe to send this to some of our legislators and ask them to stop playing with our health?
Um, that's a good idea. So I've had really great reception with it thus far. As people have ordered and then reordered 2 or 3 more copies for friends and things like that. So I know it is definitely being well received. So I'm very happy with that. So I think, sending it to some legislators with a note might be a good idea. What do we got to lose, right? So
It's a little
um,
sticky note, like Dr. Bernard says, "I was thinking of you when I read this
yeah,
recipe."
yeah, absolutely. So it may be that's not a bad idea at all. So I might have to pick up my lobbying hat and do that. And definitely do that. So yeah, so I've been just really excited to get it out there so that, it's done, it's out there. I already have starting on recipes for the next one.
Oh,
So
good.
yeah, yes, there will be a follow-up because I have a lot of new recipes too that I've been working on. So, yeah, but very happy with it. Just glad that it's available as a resource for people. Proud of it. I am happy. It looks great. I feel like it culminates a lot of the work that I've been doing. And one of the elements in there that I really liked adding was kind of the education component of what these types of food do for your body. So this recipe, if we're using beets, here's the benefits you're actually getting from the beets. And here's why we're focusing on beets as opposed to a lamb chop, So here's how we can make a ranch dressing that doesn't involve the exploitation of cows.
Yep.
There's all of that wrapped into it. So it is an education along with the recipes.
And even just the little educational pieces, sprouting chickpeas for 24 to 48 hours increases their protein bioavailability and reduces phytic acid. It's a beautiful cookbook, but it's also educational.
Right, and that's really what I wanted because that's how I teach when I teach cooking. It's not just, "Here's a recipe," but, "Here's why we're using this recipe. Here's why we're using these ingredients," because we're trying to optimize health with every meal. But let's make it taste good, and you can
And
do both.
and that's the goal. Giving up animal products doesn't mean that you don't give up flavor, fullness, and just the wholesomeness of sitting down and having a great meal.
Right, right, exactly.
Ruby, you've been a leader in this space for so many years. What keeps you inspired? I mean, despite the challenges that you've had to overcome with your health, with trying to lead advocacy, with trying to change minds and hearts in the DC community, what how do you wake up every day with as much energy as you have to keep wanting to make a difference?
You know, because it actually saves lives, and that's what keeps me going. And that's why it is something I would do for free because who doesn't want to help people? That's always been my nature is to want to jump in and help people. And so to be able to do it directly really keeps me going because it pains me to see people, dying of diseases. Just a few weeks ago, one of the women who's about my age who lived in my apartment complex, I saw it was posted that she had breast cancer. It was advanced. And I just cried because I was like, this is so sad. I wish I could have worked with her before because now she's gone, because it was by the time I heard about it, it's gone. And so that pains me. And if I can help spare that for other people, then I'm gonna do it. And so that's really what keeps me going.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah,
So
that almost brings little tears there just thinking about it because she was so full of life, and there's just so many people like that. It's like, if we could just get this message out there, we can save lives without much effort just by putting vegetables on your plate and leaving the meat off. And as I shared in the movie, you know, um, What the Health, my grandmother suffered with diabetes for a long time. And she would have been around a lot longer and healthier if I'd known what I know now, if I'd known like, oh, we could have reversed that. She didn't have to be jabbing herself with insulin needles every day. We could have reversed that. They were taking little baby steps, a little, less meat. And I was like, no, if we overhaul the whole thing, she could have just had a better ending to her life. And so that keeps me going because I just meet people every day who need help.
yeah,
They need help, and what they need is information before it gets so far gone. It just, and it takes everything in my body when I'm out and I see people, young people like smoking. I was like, I just want to say something. Sounds like they're not even going to hear it. I just want to say, when you're 50, you're going to be doing everything you can to save your life because you're making this crazy decision right now to be cool and smoke. It's like, I'm working with you, people like you who are 20, 30 years in the future,
yeah,
and they wish they had done something different. And we can be so flippant, especially younger, to be like, I'm fine and make the jokes about the vegans and, I'm going to eat my burger. I'm like, at some point, that runs out and maturity kicks in and you're like, "Okay, maybe I should make a different decision. Maybe I can cut my love affair with cheese like I had."
yeah.
You can do it. You can do it. The tree huggers were right. You know, Hugging the trees actually brings down your blood pressure and helps regulate your systems. It's like make the fun, but the science backs it up. And science backs this up 1,000%. And it's like, it's such a doable fix, especially for communities like mine
Mhm.
that get the short end of the stick when it comes to healthcare. We don't need that much healthcare if we care for ourselves on the front end. So it's like that's what keeps me going. It's like that's never until that problem's solved, then I don't see resting, you know?
Awesome. And it's not healthcare. What you're describing is sick care. What you're
Right.
doing is healthcare,
Right.
because you're empowering people with the knowledge to be healthy. And that's the key, that we can't wait till we're sick to figure out how to get healthy again.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Dr. Ruby, I want to be respectful. I've just looked at the time and I didn't realize we were talking so long. Um, if just as you shared a sense of overwhelm as you started your journey, if there was one message that you wanted to leave our audience with today in terms of what do I do next? What would be that next step that you would recommend?
So the next step would be some form of education on why you're doing it because you are entering into something that's different from the norm and you're going to get pushback from people. I mean, like, you could drink Coke every day and nobody's going to say anything, but you're like, I'm not eating meat anymore. So, oh my gosh, what about your health? I'm like,
Gonna get healthier.
right, right. So you need to educate yourself so that you can at least internally answer those questions because you don't have to answer it for anybody else, but you need to answer it for yourself. And then you can share it when you're ready to share it. Um, so whether that's reading books or watching, there's so many movies out from What the Hell to Forks Over Knives to They're Trying to Kill Us. There's so many game changers. There's so many movies that are very educational documentaries that educate. So educate yourself first, read the books, read some information, whatever is the easiest mode for you to consume so that you know what you're doing, and then come up with the plan. So first, it's like just start adding more greens to your plate before you remove everything because I don't want you to be one of those people. "Well, I just ate salad because I didn't know what else to eat and now I'm malnourished." Just like, well, if you ate the right salad, you still wouldn't be malnourished. But anyway, there's just more to it. So learn how to kind of replace things so that you don't, fall off the wagon because you're like feeling unsatisfied with your meals. So get the book. That's the start right there. It's on my website. Order the book. It's going to give you recipes. It's going to show you how to do protein swaps and things like that. So just get some type of plan together so that as you're removing the meat, you're replacing it with something healthier and sustainable so that you can stay on this journey and understand that, falling off the wagon, so to speak, does not mean you're done. You just keep going. So what? You relapsed into some chicken. Okay, let's get back on.
Go next the next
Back
meal is
on the
another
wagon the
opportunity.
next day and keep it going. It's a journey, it's not perfection, it's not religion, it is a journey of life to living a healthier lifestyle. So there's no wrong way to get into it. Just get into it and keep going.
And if people join your community or spend time at your meetups, do you talk about all of the other things, the stress management, the sleep,
We
the
do.
mindset? Mhm.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that because I did start an online community, the healing community, where people can interact with me more often and in person online. So we like tonight actually. Well, every Wednesday we're doing for now it's on Wednesdays, a live session, whether it's cooking demo or me showing you how I do some recipe development.
Oh, that's
Um,
nice.
Also doing, workshops and Q&A sessions. So our next session is going to be on fasting and benefits and the ins and outs of fasting, juice fasting, water fasting, all the types of fasting. And so it just allows for more information and to get connected with other people who are in the same journey and lifestyle. And so it's because you do have to get some friends on the right side of things so that you have some encouragement, because we do tend to do what our friends do.
Oh, yeah.
So you got to make some healthy friends if you want to be on the healthy side of things. And so this community allows that, and so I'm really excited about that too.
Well, I will make sure to put links to your website, to the healthy community, just so people I know if they're in the DC area, your in-person meetups, but
Mhm,
you are such a wealth of education and information and
mhm.
positivity that I know anyone who joins any of these sessions that you're hosting will benefit from it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, it was a way that I could be more available without stressing myself out. We can do this weekly thing and be prepared for it. So it is a way to get more information out there that people are really hungry for. So I'm happy to share that.
And is there any other way for people to connect with you? Instagram,
Oh,
LinkedIn?
absolutely. Yeah. I'm on, Facebook, Instagram, even TikTok. So
TikTok.
meet me there. Yeah. And then consultations and things, you can connect with me through my website. Um, and definitely, as you mentioned, sign up for the newsletter so that you know when I'm having in person events, not just in DC, but in other areas too. I was recently in Atlanta doing the Veg Fest there and in Huntsville
Great.
doing a book signing and cooking demo at Oakwood University. So yeah, I get around to different cities, so get on the mailing list for that.
And Dr. Ruby, as we wrap up, is there any last messages that you want to share with the community or anything we didn't have an opportunity to cover today that you wanted to make sure that was weighing on your heart that you wanted to share?
That's a good question. I think it's really just, to follow your gut because I think everybody knows what they should be doing. It's just making the leap to stop playing around. Stop it. Stop. I mean, that really sums up so many things. Stop playing with your health and do what you know will be the most beneficial for your longevity and the quality of your life. So stop playing, get serious, and let's do this thing. And then bring along people with you. Bring your family, bring your friend. Save yourself first. You got to put the mask on.
Mm.
And once everybody sees how good you're doing, so don't worry about everybody else first. You first. And then once they see the glow up, once they see how healthy you are, once they see the medications fall away, they're going to be like, "Well, what are you doing?" And then you can save others as well. So do it for yourself and then spread the message.
And that is the drop the mic moment. That's the ripple effect. And we hope, just as you have been rippling throughout all the communities and people you touch, that everyone who listens to you and stops playing will be able to do the same. Dr. Ruby, thank you so much for joining me today on Thrive on Plants. We'll be sure to include all of the resources below. And for everyone watching or listening, please keep thriving on plants, stop playing, and living with purpose. Take care.
Absolutely. Thank you.
The information shared on the Thrive on Plants podcast is intended solely for educational and informational purposes. It is not medical advice, and it should never be used as a substitute for personalized guidance from a qualified healthcare professional. Always consult with your physician or healthcare provider before making any changes to your nutrition, exercise routine, supplement use, or your overall wellness plan. The opinions and advice shared by our guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Vegan Gym or its team. While we aim to bring you high quality, thoughtful conversations, these perspectives are not intended to replace professional medical care. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, you have the power to thrive on plants and live with purpose.